All right, guys, get ready for it. We're talking about Erling Haaland.
Oh, boy.
Once again, yes, it was the question that launched 1,000 debates, but Erling Haaland has been named the Premier League Player of the Month for September. He's already scored 9 goals in 7 games so far. And Jurgen, we absolutely want you to weigh in on this argument. The question was, is Erling Haaland the best striker the Premier League has seen? We had a look at his stats, and best believe he is already ahead of some of the biggest names that we have seen grace the Premier League. But as a lot of the guys have argued back, they have said that there's more to being, I suppose, called the best striker than just the stats. So where do you fall in this debate, Jurgen? What do you think?
Yeah, I think that we have to differentiate. Ever? I mean, ever? No, you cannot say that because the times were different, 20, 30 years ago, the rules were different, strikers couldn't score that easily because no center back could kind of kick you twice in the back of your legs and take you out. The rules have changed. They're far more protected. But I'm not taking anything away from Erling Haaland. I mean, he's absolutely fantastic, outstanding, and deserves every single compliment out there. Now, were there other players in the history of the Premier League that I would compare to him in terms of quality and class, not only because of numbers and goals, then if you look at that list, then you can go through it and you can pick your favorite ones. And I think, you have to see them as a whole, and as a package. And that's why I admire everything that Erling is doing, and I wish him goals as many as he can score, and also taking Norway, obviously, to the World Cup. But I think over time, if you have an Alan Shearer, for example, there, Thierry Henry, I mean, Didier Drogba carried Chelsea on his own shoulders there many, many games. I would then throw them in there, but I would not put him above them.
All right. So as Jurgen's saying then, there's more to this story. But I guess quickly before we get the guys to weigh in on this one, Jurgen, who for you is the best striker the Premier League has seen ever?
I mean, obviously we watch it from different angles and we watch it at different times, and I'm a bit older on my end, but I loved Alan Shearer. I have to say, Alan Shearer was for me a guy that he was just, I played against him, and he won a Premier League title then in the year I was there, and so you have something in common probably. But I was always a big admirer of him.
Ale, this is your area of the pitch. When you're a striker, you live off of numbers, right? Goals don't lie.
Well, in my case, not enough goals. Not enough goals.
They were lying.
There were a lot of lies. Well, I think you have to ask yourself the very existential question of what is a striker? And what is a striker now is different as to what was a striker 30, 40 years ago. The role of the striker, of the number 9, the old school number 9, we call it old school now, is that guy that was defined by, hey, I'll touch the ball 3 times, but 2 of them go in the back of the net, and that's it. That has changed. That is an endangered species. And that's why I appreciate so much what Erling Haaland does, because he is a striker.
That striker.
This is who he is. He lives and dies on scoring goals, and I have admiration and respect for that. But is Mohamed Salah a or is he a winger type that scores a lot of goals?
Even Henry?
Thierry Henry. Or take it, Cristiano Ronaldo in his time at Manchester United. Was he a striker or was he a winger? Take it outside of the Premier League. Is Lionel Messi a striker? Is he? Not really, not by that definition. And so what a striker is now, to Jurgen's point, is completely different as to what it was back then. So if we are evaluating for a moment in time in the Premier League, man, it's hard to look past Thierry Henry for a moment in time. Even a guy like Michael Owen, for a moment in time. The longevity, if you're going to look at it for the productivity, you cannot look past Alan Shearer, because that is an old school striker that for a long period of time was scoring goals consistently. Erling Haaland is well on his way. He is well on his way. And every sign points in the direction that he will be the all-time leading goal scorer in the Premier League. And when he achieves that, maybe we can revisit the conversation. He's well on his way, but it's too early to call. And so I am not crowning Erling Haaland just yet. He's very much in the conversation, and he will be very much a part of the top end of this conversation as his career continues to advance and he continues to score goals.
Shaka, who's your best ever?
My best, leaning into what Ali just said, I thought the best finisher I've seen is one I'd also played with in Alan Shearer. I don't think finishers came much better than Alan Shearer. Robbie Fowler, maybe a close second. Erling Haaland cut from a similar cloth in terms of his playing style. But on that list, there's nobody that changed the game by his mere presence more than Thierry Henry.
Yeah.
While he wasn't the finisher that Alan Shearer was or Robbie Fowler was, Thierry Henry gave you so much more because of his pace, because of how skillful he was on the ball and drifting out to wide areas. He just totally confused defenses, and you had to have a very different game plan in playing up against a Thierry Henry, which is why even when Erling, and I'm sure when Erling Haaland hits the number of games that Thierry Henry does, Erling Haaland will have a whole lot more goals. It's just an entirely different conversation in comparing those two because of just their different styles and different impacts on the opponents.
Can I confuse the conversation even more?
Oh, sure. Why not? We love a bit of confusion.
Let me pollute it a little bit more. I think Harry Kane right now, for example,
Fair.
is a more complete player than Erling Haaland. A better player, more complete. He can do much more than Erling Haaland in terms of what he does on the field. He can play number 9 position, but he can play underneath. He can hold up play. He can distribute play. He is the full package. But if you ask me to pick a striker to have on my team, a goal scorer, I'm picking Erling Haaland. And yet I think Harry Kane is a better player. Does that make sense? Probably not. More complete player doesn't mean that you are a better striker if indeed you define striker by goal scoring.
Jurgen, does what Ale just say make sense to you as well?
Absolutely, it makes total sense. I think, when you talk about the traditional, really hardcore number 9, it's a Lewandowski, it's a Harry Kane, and it's Erling Haaland. And then they have other top strikers up there. They move around, they go to the left, they go to the right, like the Messi, Ronaldos, and many others, Salah, and many of them. I would be curious to see what the conversation was about if Gary Lineker would have stayed in England his entire career. But he left. He went to Spain. He went to Barcelona, and so forth. No, it's a fantastic conversation to have, and I think there's so much quality out there, and we just admire them. I mean, obviously, Pep Guardiola knew exactly what he was doing when he decided to bring in Erling Haaland. And Pep Guardiola, his philosophy before that was always playing with a false number 9. So it all hit us a little bit by surprise that he said, no, now I want a real kind of a old traditional number 9 with Erling Haaland that only is responsible for scoring goals. And obviously it works out.